Well, the Chiefs just made a very surprising signing in former Bills punter Matt the Punt God Araiza. And there's a lot to talk about with that, so we've got to get into details there, some interesting free agency thoughts, more roster moves the Chiefs made, and much freaking more. But first, how about those? First up, in some former Chiefs news, the Eagles recently announced they signed a couple of players, with one of them being listed as tackle Darian Kinnard. The Chiefs traded back from pick 50 to 54 with the Patriots in the 2022 NFL Draft in exchange for an extra 5th round pick. So with pick 54, they got Sky Moore, and with the 5th round pick, they got offensive tackle Darian Kinnard. He was an intriguing prospect, a big-bodied guy at 6'5", 322 pounds from Kentucky, but he played in just one game in 2022, with those being 6 special team snaps, and then spent the entire 2023 season on the practice squad. It didn't work out here for Kinnard, in my opinion at least, because after trying him at tackle and even listing him as tackle on the roster, I think he was viewed more as a guard in their eyes, and the problem with that was he was behind Trey Smith and Joe Tooney, Nick Allegretti even, and others, and he just didn't get a real opportunity because of that. So, hey, I wish him nothing but the best in his next chapter with the Eagles. Now, a player who did make the cut, the 90-man roster cut at least, is wide receiver Cornell Powell. The 5th round pick of the 2021 NFL Draft didn't make the initial 53-man roster that year and has basically remained on the practice squad ever since. He did manage to play in 3 games in 2022, logging 3 offensive snaps and 28 special team snaps. Other than that, though, he's been a guy Casey has kept around for depth purposes as a real case of emergency type of guy. Some are confused why the Chiefs continue keeping him around, considering the fact they don't really use him at all. But hey, the guy knows the system very well, helps out with the scout team, has good rapport with teammates and coaches, and again, is around as a potential just in case kind of a guy should emergency arise. I'm sure he could be called up to play special teams as well as the offense in a pinch at any given time. So hey, why not? He also has a chance to make the 53-man roster this year, so we'll see how it goes. And with Powell now being signed to a futures deal, that makes only a few players that remain unsigned from last year's end-of-season practice squad, with those that remain being tight ends Matt Bushman and Garrett Prince, offensive lineman Austin Ryder, and defensive tackle Mike Pennell. A player who was on the practice squad but released late in December was safety Tyree Gillespie, who was actually signed back to the Chiefs today. He played college ball at MU and was drafted in the 4th round of the 2021 NFL Draft by the Raiders, and he did again sign with the Chiefs back in December to their practice squad, but was waived a few weeks later to make room for Isaiah Bugs, and he's now once again back in the fold with KC. And from here, we got to get into some interesting free agency thoughts for KC, as well as a surprise signing they just made today. But before I do, I need to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Incogni. You see, my YouTube channel just recently crossed over 200,000 subs, which is insane. But I remember crossing 20,000 subs like it was yesterday, and during the 20K celebration live stream, some friends of ours from All Chiefed Up, good dudes, sent us a pizza as a surprise. But the problem is, I never gave them my address. How did they get my address? It turns out they looked me up, found my address on some site, and had the pizza delivered as a friendly gesture. And while it's one I appreciated, it still freaked me out a bit. In fact, this is actually a big problem in the US via people search sites, with the websites that exist to create detailed personal profiles on millions of Americans and publish them for anyone to see. And this can leave you exposed to a wide range of dangers, from scams and identity theft to online harassment and even stalking. And that's where Incogni comes into play. They reach out to data brokers on your behalf, request your personal data removal, and deal with any objections from their site. This is a service I actually use personally, paying for it with my own money, and it does work. You can also log into your account and check your dashboard at any time to see the work they are doing. And if you want to protect your private info online, all you got to do is create an account, grant Incogni the right to work for you, then sit back and watch them get it done. And right now, the first 100 people to use code CHIEFS at the link below will get 60% off Incogni. So click the link in the description to take back your personal information right now. All right, Matt Bowen of ESPN recently took the time to list the best team fits for the upcoming perceived to be top 50 free agents, and there was a few interesting ones to look at that involved the Chiefs. First of all, was no surprise, Chris Jones, who is listed as the #1 free agent, and Matt has him staying in Kansas City by them signing a multi-year deal with him despite KC's tight cap space. His versatility and importance in the Chiefs defense is too important to pass up, and that's why a deal should get done. That's what he said, and I could honestly see that logic there. Chris Jones is a very important piece of the Chiefs defense. And while he says KC's cap space is tight, sitting around 15-ish million at the moment, the Chiefs can free up cap space by making a few moves, such as restructuring Mahomes' contract to save anywhere from a few million all the way up to more than 25 million if they wanted. They could release MVS. That would save roughly 12.5 million. They could also extend at least one of the following players with the largest cap hits. You got left guard Joe Thuney, right tackle Jawan Taylor, safety Justin Reed, or even defensive end Charles Omenihu. Thuney doesn't seem likely to get extended based on his age. He has a couple years left on his deal as it is. Jawan Taylor just got here, but his cap hits over the next 3 years are $24 million per year. Good God. Justin Reed is in the last year of his deal. He's only 27 years old, playing well in Spags' system, so extending him for another couple of years would make sense and would lower his cap hit. They could also go crazy, don't expect this to happen, and release him, which would save $6.5 million. But again, probably not happening. Charles Omenihu is somebody that could happen as far as a surprise cut candidate. We talked about that in this video here as earlier this week. They could do that because they would save nearly $7 million by moving on from him. The reasoning for this is he's on the last year of his 2-year deal and just recently had ACL surgery, which means he probably won't be available for roughly the first half of next season. So you could cut him and save money, or I guess extend him and lower his nearly $11 million cap hit if you want to keep him around for longer than just this season. Either way, shout out to Charles Omenihu, Super Bowl champion Charles Omenihu, who announced yesterday that his ACL surgery was a success, noting that the journey begins as he starts his road to recovery. Anyway, with all that being said, those are some moves the Chiefs could make to free up potentially a decent amount of cap space and enable them to bring back a heavy hitter like Chris Jones, maybe even L'Jarius Sneed, but we'll see about that. Some are saying Chris Jones, though, is too important not to pay, so the Chiefs should do all they can to bring him back, even if that means overpaying him.
He is the most underrated player of this entire Chiefs run. Everybody in the Chiefs kingdom and everyone in that building wants him. Chris Jones wants to be there. I would overpay. To me, this is a no-brainer. You pay the guy what he wants. He's earned it, and he earned it again this year.
Well, let me know your guys' thoughts on that one. Would you overpay for Chris Jones if you have to keep him in Kansas City, or nah? All right, if we get back to Matt's article about free agents and their best fits, he also has the Chiefs not spending money on L'Jarius Sneed. I know I just said the Chiefs could, but in this instance, he said that Sneed is going to generate a ton of interest in free agency, and while he thinks Sneed could very well end up in Philadelphia, that's where he has him going, the Eagles as the best fit, to join former teammate Darian Kinnard, he doesn't want to rule out the Falcons or the Raiders. Please, God, if Sneed is not a Chief next year, do not let it be with the Raiders. And yeah, this offseason, it looks like a lot of teams are going to be needing cornerbacks, so if the Chiefs don't get a deal done ASAP or tag Sneed, he could very well go. Mina Kimes of ESPN recently said she's got 20 of 32 teams in the league with cornerback as their primary need. And that's why he could more than likely be gone in free agency, even though I hope he can stay. Charles Omenihu is another player who hopes L'Jarius Sneed can stay, as he went live briefly on Instagram today. He pinned a comment, a very public PSA, if you will, that said, "Pay Sneed." So he wants him here. You guys probably want him here. Hopefully, Brett Veach and company can get a deal done with L'Jarius Sneed. But again, Chris Jones might take precedence over that. Next up, Matt Bowen thinks the best fit for offensive tackle Tyron Smith, the Cowboy, is with the Chiefs, saying when healthy, he would absolutely be an upgrade over Donovan Smith at left tackle, limiting pass rushers and keeping the throwing platform clean for QB1. The problem is he has missed 33 games over the last 4 seasons with the Cowboys, playing in just 2 games in 2020, 11 in 2021, 4 in 2022. And for what it's worth, he did trend upwards in 2023, playing in 13 games, which is actually 1 more than Donovan Smith, who played in 12 games as he dealt with that neck stinger at the end of the season, but did finish strong in the playoffs. However, Donovan has a much better track record of health over the last handful of years, is a couple of years younger, and at the end of the day, the best ability is availability. Yeah, you know that one. I get the fact that there's limited options out there, but at the price the Chiefs paid for Donovan Smith, if they want to do another short-term deal with an aging vet, that is, they don't want to roll the dice on Wanye Morris. They did test him out at left tackle when Donovan Smith was injured. If they don't want to go that route, Donovan Smith is still a palatable option. Lastly, the most interesting piece to this article was that Matt listed the Chiefs as the best fit for veteran running back Austin Ekeler. His reasoning is with CEH and McKinnon set to hit free agency, a short-term deal with Ekeler could have a nice 1-2 combo going with Isaiah Pop Pacheco. Ekeler is a dual threat back, catching 51 passes last season, though I will say Ekeler is coming off of a down year for him. I mean, the Chargers were an absolute train wreck. I think he battled through a little bit of injury as well. But a down year for Ekeler is still pretty good considering he had roughly 1,000 yards from scrimmage still by season's end. He is getting up there in age a bit. Will turn 29 in May. But hey, why not at the very least have a conversation with him? The problem I see is the Chiefs probably won't be willing to pay all that much for another running back. So if Ekeler wants to take a one-year team-friendly deal to chase a ring, he could certainly be an option. There are other running backs set to hit free agency, though, with names including Derrick Henry, probably too expensive, Gus Edwards, Zeke Elliott, Josh Jacobs, DeAndre Swift, and honestly, the list is pretty long and there's a lot to choose from. With all that being said, though, do you guys like these 4 moves for KC? Re-sign Chris Jones, let Sneed walk, sign Tyron Smith and Austin Ekeler? If so, let me know which ones you would like, and if not, let me know who you think would be a better fit in the comments down below. And then, in some breaking news, it was announced today by JL Sports that their client, Punter Matt Araiza, aka the Punt God, has been signed by the Kansas City Chiefs. Quote, "We are grateful to Brett Veach, Coach Reed, and the Chiefs organization for giving Matt this opportunity. Matt has been to hell and back in the last 18 months. He has handled himself with grace and humility, and that is truly inspiring. Matt can now move forward knowing that his ordeal is behind him and is thrilled to move forward as part of Chiefs Kingdom." And in case you guys are wondering, what the heck is going on? Why are they saying all this? Hell and back, etc., etc. Don't worry, we'll get there. But first, Araiza earned his nickname of the Punt God in college when he led the nation in punting average with an FBS record of 51.4 yards per punt. He also had 6 punts of at least 70 yards, the most in the country, and also hit the longest punt in college football, an 86-yard bomb. However, despite those accolades and that nickname, he was actually the 3rd punter drafted in 2022, and it was by the Buffalo Bills in the 6th round. He looked promising in preseason, even booming an 82-yarder week 1 against the Indianapolis Colts, but was actually released in August by the Bills after wild allegations of him being a woman surfaced from an off-campus party back in 2021. He then sat out the rest of the 2022 season while this court case was ongoing, and in December of 2023, it was announced that the charges were finally dropped. The woman's attorney wrote by text message that, quote, "This was a mutual settlement agreement in which both sides released each other." I guess Araiza filed a defamation lawsuit at some point during all of this, so he dropped the defamation suit. No money changed hands, worth noting, and the lady dropped Araiza from her lawsuit. So no criminal charges would be filed, with several media outlets obtaining an audio recording that concluded, based on a witness statement, that Araiza, quote, "wasn't even at the party anymore when the alleged incident was said to have occurred, and he wasn't visible in any of the videos that were recovered." Meanwhile, Araiza had maintained his innocence the entire time, saying he never went in the house and left before the alleged incident occurred inside the house. Apparently, he had a brief encounter with this lady outside, but it was not how it was portrayed in the media or the lawsuit. After he was removed from the lawsuit, Matt's attorney said that he was forced to defend himself for the last 16 months against false accusations in a campaign to ruin his NFL career. But thankfully, there was extensive evidence that was key to securing Matt's voluntary dismissal. After that, Matt's goal was to return to the NFL, and it looks like he got his wish because he's now signing, or has already signed, with the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid is a man well known for giving people second chances, i.e. Mike Vick after prison with the Eagles back in 2009. After the signing was announced, Araiza said, quote, "I am proud and honored to sign with the Chiefs. I'm thrilled to be able to continue my NFL career. I want to thank my family for their unwavering support, and I'm excited to begin the new phase of my career with the Super Bowl champs." Now, I'm sure many of you are wondering, what the heck does that mean for punter Tommy Townsend, who was a free agent, by the way? Well, the writing is probably on the wall for him. He's most likely not coming back, which is definitely bittersweet. His time in KC was great, winning 2 rings, but Townsend signed with a new agent last offseason, Drew Rosenhaus, who is well known for getting his clients their money. And if that name sounds familiar, Drew Rosenhaus, because it should. One of his clients is Tyreek Hill. So if you remember how the trade went down and all the drama afterwards, Drew was definitely a part of that. And I almost wonder if the day the Chiefs found out Tommy signed with Drew last offseason, they were like, nah fam, we're good, we're gonna go another route. Again, they're probably respectful to Tommy, but I don't know if they've had the best of dealings with Drew. Hey, at the end of the day, he got a haul for Tyreek, so I guess they can appreciate that. But who really knows? Either way, it looks like it's a new era for Chiefs Kingdom featuring Matt the Punt God Araiza, which is honestly a pretty surprising signing to me personally. With all that being said, I would love to get your thoughts on this signing. Are you happy with it knowing how good he is, or are you wishing KC would have tried to bring Tommy back? I will say, I don't know the details on Matt's contract yet, but it is going to be much cheaper than Tommy's, that is for sure. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments down below, and until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?